Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So inshallah, we'll finish the zakah halaqah in case there is something that you have and you didn't know that you should be giving zakah for it. So we talked about the nisab. How much money do you have to have minimum in order for you to give zakat? What is the minimum for someone to be eligible for zakat? The minimum amount of money? $2 million? Okay, so 400 is for the silver, because we said the nisab for silver is 595 grams of silver. After Maghrib, okay. And for gold, 85 grams of gold, and this is worth around $5,500. Okay, طيب, we said how much of that do you give to zakat every year? What is the percentage that we give to zakat? 2.5%, which is a very, very small amount. And we talked about houses. So we said if you have a house and you live in that house, you do not give zakah for it. What kind of house do you give zakah for? Is the house that you are investing, right? Like if you are, you buy a house and then you sell it to make profit. You buy a house and then you sell it for profit. Or if you live in a house and you're done with it and you want to move to another house, so you're selling the house that you used to live in. Okay? If you are selling it and you're going to make profit, if it stays on the market for a whole year, you have to give zakah for that house. Yes, brother?
What if somebody has 10 houses, 10 different places, he's not selling, he lives in every house? Right.
So if he's not selling, he lives in all these houses, he doesn't have to give zakah, except if that person is doing this in order to run away from zakat. So some people say, I have some money and I'm worried about the dollar losing value. So I'm going to put my money to buy some houses, right? So that the money doesn't lose its value. If that person is doing that to run away from zakat, then he has to pay zakat, right? But if he's buying the houses just to live in them, he doesn't know what he's going to do with them, etc. In that case, he doesn't have to give zakat on the houses. Renting, if you rent a house, you take the money from the rent. If it stays with you for a whole year, you give zakat on the rent itself, but not on the house. Okay? So we're good with the houses. The same applies to land. If you have land and it stays with you for a whole year, but you are buying it to sell it and to make profit, then you give zakat 2.5% of the total value of the land. Okay. We talked about the salary. You come to the end of the year, how much money you have from the salary, and you give 2.5%, and that's the easiest way. If you calculate month by month, it will be horrible for you. Yes, brother?
Is that after government takes your taxes or before government takes the taxes?
You remove your taxes, you remove any debt that you have in that year, which takes us to an important question we forgot to answer about the houses. What if somebody's paying installments on the house? Like let's say they owe $100,000 or something on their house, okay? So Imam Shafi'i said that the Prophet ﷺ, when he sent people to collect the zakah, he did not ask them to ask the people if they were in debt or no. So they were just taking the money whether they are in debt or not in debt. So Imam Shafi'i said, it doesn't matter if you are in debt, if you're still paying off your house, if you're still paying off your car, it doesn't matter. Amjad said that you deduct the yearly amount that you have to pay for the house, just 1 year, right? So let's say this year you're going to pay $5,000 for the house that you live in. Amjad said, deduct that $5,000 from the money that you have saved and give 2.5% of the rest, okay? But if you want to be on the safe side, follow Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah, because the Prophet did not tell the people to ask if someone is in debt or not. They just were collecting the zakat. You should not be in debt. Yes, inshallah. Yeah.
How about the mortgage?
Yeah. So mortgage is the same thing. Either follow Imam al-Shafi'i and pay your zakat. Doesn't matter if you owe, right, for the mortgage, or follow Amja, who says you deduct 1 year only. So let's say your amount of money you have to pay for the mortgage for 1 year is $10,000, or let's say 12, because 1 year is 12 months, right? And you have $100,000 saved. So you remove 12,000 from the 100,000, you end up with what? 88. So you give zakat 2.5% of the 88. Okay? Any other questions about houses? Okay. We talked about gold. We talked about stocks. Anybody have questions about stocks? Yes, brother. Diamonds. So the ijma' or the consensus is that diamonds, if you buy them for decoration, like your wife is going to wear them, or you are going to wear it like a diamond watch or something. First of all, this is excessive. Do not do that, right? So the ijma' is that do not be excessive. Do not waste your money. And they said there is no zakah if you're buying it for decoration, right? Or for zina. Well, is there a better word for zina than decoration? For women? Like when women wear their jewelry, what do you call that? Jewelry. For jewelry, okay.
Show off.
Showing off. Okay. Right. So they said there is no zakat for diamond if it's just for showing off, like Brother Arshad said. Right? But if you are buying the diamond because you are a diamond businessman, then you have to give 2.5% of that.
So why is it different than gold?
Because they said, so I remember I said there were two opinions for gold, right? So for gold, the opinion that says gold that is for zina, the woman is just wearing it, they said there's no zakat for it because it's not money you have to invest and to grow, right? So they say diamond applies the same way, right? And the other ones who said gold you have to give zakat for is because they have a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says to the woman, that bracelet you're wearing, do you want it to be a bracelet from fire on the Day of Judgment if you don't give zakah for it? So the woman gave zakah for it.
So we are applying literal meaning, not the principle.
So they are applying, okay, and another thing is the gold and silver were used for bartering, like money. But nobody was using diamond for, so the second opinion says diamond is not something you can use for barter.
Take the gold and cut the diamond.
It's easier to what?
To take the gold out of it, take one necklace or whatever, then to cut the diamond and take
one part. Yeah. And there is also Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal in his, gold you get from the ground, right? Diamond. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal in his madhab, anything that comes out of the ground, you have to give zakah for it. Even like marble, marble they use for countertops and things like that, you have to give zakah for that as well.
It's coming out of your mind, right? Your property.
Say that again?
If it's coming out of your property.
No, that's something else. We'll talk about that soon.
20%. Anything coming out of the ground. So potato comes out of the ground.
Potato, yes. So yes, there is something called the zakah for vegetables and fruit, but only the things that you save, right? And this is different. This is not 2.5%. You give 1/10, right? But this is if you are, so you give 1/10. What is bigger, 1/10 or half a tenth? Half a tenth is smaller, right? So you give a smaller amount if the rain waters your land. But you give 1/10, you give a bigger amount if the rain waters your land and a smaller amount if you water your own land, okay? So yeah, but potatoes is not something that you save, so you cannot give zakah for potatoes, okay? But they were talking about minerals and things like that. They were not talking about the food. Okay, so diamonds are good. So what if somebody buys diamonds because he knows there's no zakah for diamonds, and he's buying diamonds just to save his money? Do they have to give zakah on that diamond? Yes, they have to give zakah. If they are buying the diamond just to save the money, they have to give zakah. It's not for decoration anymore. Type. Any other questions before we move to the next one? So we talked about stocks last time. Are we clear on stocks?
One question.
Yes.
about the gold jewelry which is used for show off?
Yes.
You have to give zakat.
So there are two opinions. One opinion says that you have to give zakat for it. Can you guys guess who says you have to give zakat for the jewelry, the gold that you're wearing as jewelry?
Everything.
Who's the scholar who said that you should give zakat for it? It's a scholar that you all follow. Hanafi, very good. So Imam Abu Hanifa is the one who said that the woman has to give zakat for the gold that she wears as jewelry. Okay? And the other opinion, they say no, you should not give zakat on the gold that the woman wears as jewelry because they believe the hadith is weak and they believe it doesn't grow. Usually the zakat is for something that grows, an investment, money that you can use for trade, etc. But this is not for trade, not for investment, etc. Okay, Jazakallah.
So if you go to your screen,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Jazakallah. Okay, so now we are on stocks. Who can tell me again, how do we give zakat on stocks? So if you are buying the stocks and you sell them regularly to make money, should you give 2.5% on the total?
Yeah.
Yes, correct. What if you are living off of the profit that you make from these stocks? There is details in that case. So we said if you know what kind of business it is, like if it's transportation or something, then you pay zakat on the profits only. But if it's something else, like maybe like Macy's or something like that, like a business that they sell and buy things, then you have to pay on the total. But if you can take out the assets, like the actual store, if you can take that out, do it. If not, just pay on the total. Okay, so I'm going to connect my phone so that we can all see. Okay, that's so small. All right. So we talked about salary, gold, stocks. All right. And crypto, if you have crypto, you also give 2.5% of the total because crypto is just treated like money. Scholars treat crypto in the same way they treat money. 401k and retirement fund. What did we say? Anybody remembers? According to Amja, you deduct whatever the penalty will be if you were to take your money now. So let's say you have 100,000 saved in your retirement fund. And your employer, I'm using my phone. So let's say you have $100,000 with the retirement fund in your 401k. If you were to take it out today, they will penalize you with 10,000. So that's 90,000 left. And your tax, I'm sorry? 10,000, let's say 10,000, okay? You wanna say 30,000? Okay, let's do 30,000. So you have 70,000 left. And your tax, let's say 10,000. So that's 40,000 from 100,000. How much do we have left? 60. So you give zakat on the 60. But you don't have to take it out, right? It will still be in the 401k. So this is the Amja opinion. I feel this is the safest opinion. Other opinions say that you do not give any zakat until you actually take the money after retirement, and then you either give for the past year or you keep it with you for 1 year and then you give zakat. Yes, brother.
What about the parents saving for college money?
Yes, very good question. Parents who are saving for a college fund. Same thing applies. If you were to take it out now, they will penalize you, right? There will be a penalty. So you remove the penalty and you remove the tax and you give the zakat on the remaining amount. Okay? طيب. Debt. Debt that others owe you, right? If somebody owes me money, let's say Brother Adil owes me 10,000, or Brother Adil. Huh? I don't know. If Brother Adil doesn't have the money, he's poor, in that case, I do not have to give zakat for the $10,000 he owes me. But if he's rich, if I ask him at any time and he will give it back to me, I have to give zakah for it. Okay?
Even if it doesn't pay.
Even if he doesn't pay me. But if as soon as I ask him, I know he's gonna pay me. Okay? Type, what about brother Adil himself? Should he pay zakat on the 10,000 that he took from me?
No.
I don't think. If he's not using it, he should pay.
So according to Amjad, he has to pay zakat for it because that's money he owns, right? But there are some other scholars said as long as the owner, the actual owner of the money is going to pay the zakat, then Brother Adil doesn't have to pay. Yes, both. And this is according to Ibn Baz as well, rahimahullah.
Deduct the loan, right?
Deducted from what?
Deduct the loan from my saving. If I have $20,000 saving, I owe you $10,000. I will minus
Right.
$10,000 first.
But remember, we said that Imam Shafi'i said the Prophet did not ask about any loans or if you are in debt to anyone, right? So if you follow Imam Shafi'i, you have to pay, right?
We need to decide.
So what is the best situation now for, what is the best thing that Brother Ali should do here?
Do not have money.
He just gives me back my money, right? He should give me back the money and then I pay the zakah. Maybe after the zakah passes, he can take it back if he needs it, okay? Here's a good question. Can I just, so Brother Adi, let's say, may Allah keep him rich, him and his family, but let's say he is poor. Can I just tell him, hey, you can deduct, you can take that $10,000, I don't want it back, and it's from my zakat. Can I do that?
Yes.
No.
What?
You cannot do that. The confidence, mashallah.
No, because he's poor, right?
Yes, he's poor, but as Muslims, we're required to give the poor the money in their hand, right? If a person doesn't have the ability to pay you back, you are supposed to give, Allah tells you in the Quran, فَنَظِرَةٌ إِلَى مَيْسَرَةٍ in Surah Al-Baqarah. Give them time, as long as they want. And you know he's poor, can't pay you back, now go and help him, give him from your zakat, right? But you cannot tell him, hey, the money you have is zakat. Maybe he's starving or something, right? It's very bad that you go and tell him take the money from the zakat. Okay? So we cannot do that. You have to give him zakat or give somebody else zakat, right? But do not tell him the money you have is from the zakat I owe. Tayyib. Any other questions about debt? Yes, brother.
Suppose you have $100,000 in your bank account and you also have a mortgage of $100,000.
Okay.
How much you pay for the account?
Right. So how much do you pay per year for the mortgage?
That's something to figure out.
Okay, let's say that you pay 1,000 a month, so that's 12,000 a year. According to Amjad, you're going to deduct 12,000 from that 100,000 you have, right? And then pay zakat on the remaining amount, which is 88. But if you want to be on the safe side, just pay zakat on the total, like Imam Shafi'i. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. So this is debt you owe to others. We talked about this in the mortgage. Inherited money. Inherited money or inherited house. Should we pay zakah for that? If you inherited a house, should you pay zakah? If you put that house on the market for a year and it wasn't sold, should you pay zakah on that house?
Yes.
No. No, actually, there are two opinions. I'm just teasing you. There are two opinions. The majority, the Jumhur, they say there's no zakah because this is something that you owned by force. And they say the zakah should be for only something that you work for, something that you, a business or something, etc. Okay? However, Imam Ibn Uthaymeen and an opinion from Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal is that you have to give zakah for it because it's money that you own, money, and the poor people have right in any money that exists. Either it's yours or came to you from your father, from your mother, etc. So if you want to stay on the safe side, follow Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen and give zakah for the house that you inherited. Okay?
After the government takes the money.
After, no, the government, what?
No, when you inherit,
Yeah.
the government takes inherited tax.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, deduct the tax, right? And then see how much the house is, like the value of the house. after 1 year passes, right? If you're selling it. If you're not selling it, there's no zakah for it, right? If you're selling it and it stays on the market for a whole year, you deduct the tax and then you give 2.5% of the house. Okay, does the same thing apply to a gift? The gift you have to give zakah for as well, okay? Yes.
So even if you did just stay, you put it on the market, but it didn't sell, you still pay zakah on it?
So actually, so let's say you put it on the market for 6 months, right? And then you couldn't sell it. So you took it off the market and you don't want to sell it anymore, but you're not running away from the zakah or anything, okay? In that case, you don't have to give zakah. Even if it stays on the market for 11 months and you took it off the market, no zakah. But if it stays on the market for all because you're 12 months, right? Lunar months, and it wasn't sold, in that case, you have to give zakah for it. But if it was sold before the year passes, no zakah, right?
I would think that you would pay zakah on the gift because you got money from it, right? So you don't pay unless it's a lunar calendar.
Unless it's a lunar calendar, yeah. Okay. All right. Tayyib. What about the house? Yes, brother.
It's possible. If you have valuables, these days valuables.
You have what?
Valuables that you have.
Yes.
Let's say you own a car that's $100 and a watch that's $8,000. You might sell all the jewelry and so those days accumulated. You pay the
Right. So things that you wear, things that you drive, houses you live in, no zakah for any of these, unless you bought them to run away from zakah, right? Like if you bought, what do you call it? Diamonds to save your money, right? So the value doesn't depreciate. In that case, you have to pay zakah on the diamonds, right? But if it's just something you wear, something you drive, something you live in, there's no zakah for any of these, okay? Now, question about a house. What if I bought a house and then I got into a financial dilemma? Like I just bought it to live in it and I have another house. I wasn't planning to sell any of them. I got into a financial dilemma and I decided to sell it. Do I have to give zakah for it if it stays on the market for 12 years, 1 year? Yes? No. If you're selling the house for financial dilemma, or you just want to get rid of it because you know, a lot of plumbing problems and roofing problems and things like that, I just want to get rid of it, there is no zakah. Okay? What will be the zakah on? The money that you make out if you sell it. And the money, if it stays with you for a whole year, then that you can give zakah on the money itself. Yes, brother, and the real estate brother in the back.
So if, I think you clarified this last time, I just wanted to get, so if you buy investment properties,
Yes.
right, and you rent it out, you pay zakah on the rental income, right?
On the rent.
The value of the property.
Not the value of the property. Just the rent if it stays with you for a whole year. If you spend it before the year, no zakat. But don't do that on purpose. Okay. Yes,
Let's say I become rich.
MashaAllah,
He's
inshallah.
rich.
Okay.
He got $1 million, I got $1 million.
Okay.
He opens a 7-Eleven, right? A convenience store.
Please listen, I can't hear him.
Right?
Yeah.
So he opens convenience store or grocery store or maybe something else, like a store.
Okay.
He has inventory that he's selling.
Yes.
I invest my $1 million buying maybe 5 apartments
Okay.
to rent them out.
Yes.
I'm not paying zakat after the year on my $1 million. He is, because he invested that in the inventory and inventory stays. He's also paying zakat on top of the profit he's making with the store. I'm only making paying zakat on the profit of the rent.
Right.
It's considered.
Okay, so the reason is you are not using, you have no siyula, you have no, like let us say, so in his case, he has a lot of money, right? The money he has, no, I know. But in his convenience store, he has like the profits he's gaining, right? And he has a capital and all these things. Now we look at the value of the store and the value of what you have total, right? His store and his business will be making him more money than you. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, Tisa ashar al-rizq fi tijara. 9/10, and this is something good for all of us to think about. And this happens, I've seen it happen with a lot of people back in Egypt. The Prophet ﷺ said, 9/10 of your rizq, we all know what rizq is, right? Is in trade, in tijara, in trade. So if you are in a convenience store, if you are a seller of some kind of clothing or something like that, seller of houses, things like that, you are expected from an Islamic perspective to make a lot more money than somebody who just rents an apartment, right? So if you say you're gonna make maybe what, 10,000 a month from your 10 properties, huh? Right, and then you're gonna have to pay the property tax for each one of them, the repairs and all of that. So in the end, you'll find that he's making more money than you. Okay, and also nobody forced you to go into real estate. Do the same thing he did, right?
I'm also doing my job, right?
Huh? Okay, so any other questions about real estate property?
I have a car loan.
You have what?
A car loan, which I need to
A car loan, very good question.
in 5 years.
Okay.
Should I separate the whole?
Nope.
What is the reason that you are saying that?
So if you own the car, and you owe money on it, if you want to deduct something, if you follow Imam al-Shafi'i, you don't deduct anything because the Prophet ﷺ, and this is actually the strong opinion. The Prophet ﷺ did not tell the people who collect the zakat, ask if someone is in debt. He did not say that. They were just taking the zakat. And the Jumhur who is taking the other opinion, they are basing it on a hadith of Uthman ibn Affan. When he sent people to collect the zakat, he actually said to the people that own the money, pay your debts first and then give zakat. So if you want to pay the debt off, nobody's going to ask you to pay zakat for that money. But if you're not paying it off, right? According to Imam Shafi'i, you have to give zakat. Doesn't matter if you're in debt or not. But according to Amjad, if you want to take the second opinion, you will deduct 1 year, not the whole amount. 1 year. So if you have 5 years left and it's $100,000, what's 100,000 divided by 5,000 by 5 years? 20? Right. So you will deduct 20,000 only, right, from your total savings. Okay. Any other questions? طيب, we move to the next one. Restaurant and supermarket. It's not on the screen. Restaurant and supermarket, like Brother Adil just explained. You pay zakat on, do you want to answer? Or do you have a question?
I have a question.
Yes.
Can we go back up to the high-level principle instead of each of the cases? The high-level principle is 2.5% on what?
2.5% of the money that you saved for a whole year, right? So if you did not use it. But that does not include a house that you live in, a car that you drive, or a diamond watch or something, but do not go extreme because the scholars said this is too much. Yeah, basically things, your furniture, your TV and all these things, there's no zakat for that, okay? So, but if you are a business person, whether you're selling houses or cars or jewelry or lands or any of these things, you have to give zakat for all of that, okay? Whatever you sell, you have to give zakat for all of that if it stays with you for a whole year. Okay, if you want to ask for specific examples to explain, you can ask. Yes, brother. Yeah.
College fund. I don't know if you know about
college fund. Yeah, I just answered that for Brother As.
Oh, so I can get it.
Yes, but again, it's the same thing as the 401k. You deduct the penalties. If you were to take it out today, deduct the penalties and deduct the tax. Whatever is left, you give zakat on that. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, brother. Please listen. I can't hear.
So jewelry, if you wear it, you don't pay jewelry.
If you wear jewelry, the opinion I follow, and to be on the safe side, right? And to follow Imam Abu Hanifa, which everyone here loves, and I love, of course, right? But you guys take him more than any other Imam. You have to give zakat for the jewelry that your wife wears, not you. She has to, right? Unless you ask her and she gives you permission. And that will be nicer, actually, right? And you pay from your own money, okay? But if you bought diamonds for jewelry, there's no zakat for that. Okay?
If she has no money, who pays the zakat? You.
If she It will always be nice if you pay the zakat for her. But if she has no money, she can sell some of the gold that she has and she pays the zakat. Okay? Wait, I can't hear. Guys, I can't hear. Yes?
I'm saying that, the husband usually buys the gifts for wife, right?
Yes.
And what if the wife doesn't work, she doesn't have her own money, so naturally it is property.
But who owns it? Who owns it? When you give it to her, are you going to tell her, hey, I bought it to you, give it back? No. She's the owner now.
So she has to pay this money?
Zakat follows the owner, right? And if you want to pay it for her, that's fine. Just tell her, I want your permission to give zakat on your behalf, because we need the niyyah from her. The niyyah from her and from you, okay? But if she, let's say she's not married and she has gold, right? And she doesn't have, oh, that's a good question. What if you have properties and they're all for sale, or you have, like maybe you're a jeweler, right? And you're selling gold and stuff. And then 1 year passes on all of your properties and you don't have cash to pay your zakat, right? And if you sell any of them now, you're going to lose a lot of money. What should you do? What? Give the actual property?
No, I mean,
No, I'm talking about properties, for example. From the gold, yeah, you can give the gold.
Don't need to pay anything.
No, there's no such thing. But you always have to pay. In that case, so the Sharia doesn't want you to lose money. In that case, you write in your wasiyah, in your will, that if I die, I owe such and such. And once the market reaches any good price, you immediately have to sell and give zakat from the sale that you make. I'm sorry? Okay. Taib, any other questions? Yes, sister.
Just one question. You said that women have to owe zakat on their children. So what if a woman doesn't have a job? Isn't the husband responsible then?
So, yes, you have to pay for her, brother. Yeah, but he has to take your permission first. Okay, so he has to take your permission for the niyyah. Permission that you are allowing him to give zakat on your behalf. Okay, so we talked about this, okay, we talked about the business. Okay, what about money your kids own? Let's say your kid has some money that their uncle gave them, and it's more than $5,000, $5,500. Is there zakat for that? Yes. So the zakat follows the money, unless you're following Imam Abu Hanifa's opinion. Huh? Yeah, well, I mean, the kid doesn't have access to the poor people. A treasure you find. If you find a treasure in your backyard, what should you do with it? You give it to the imam. Okay, so if you find a treasure, what should we do? There is something that we call rikaz. If it's something from the non-Muslims, you have to give 1/5 of that. Like let's say it's something from the older periods, from the pharaohs or something like that. You give 1/2. However, you have to follow the law of the country, because here you might go to jail if you do that, right? So first check the law of the country, and then you have to give 1/5 of that. What if it's something that belongs to Muslims? It's not from the Jahiliyyah. That is something we call luqata, right? If you're walking on the street and you found $100,000 or something, right? In that case, you have to let people know that you found something, but do not identify it. Whoever can identify it, you give it to them. Okay? But if nobody identifies it for a whole year, it becomes yours. And if they show up 10 years later, you have to give it back to them. Okay? Even if you don't have it, you give them the value. So I had only, let me see if we didn't discuss any of this. Saving for a house. If you're saving money for a house, you still have to pay zakat for it. Saving for college, you have to pay zakat for it. College saving for kids, we talked about that. Khalas. Yes, brother.
Talked about, when you're referring to things about the only referring to the head of the household. But you guys are
Yes.
Right? Can we look at it that perspective as husband and wife together?
Right. If your money is combined together, then you both look at it and then you both give the 2.5% of the total. Yeah. Yes, brother.
So suppose that you have to read, amount that you both on, but at the same time you're alone, right? And that loan puts you in the negative balance. So based on
So you said you have money saved for kids?
no, say that, for example,
Why don't you come here? Because we're finished. Come here and I will talk to you. Okay, جزاكم الله خيرا. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم فاستغفروه والغفور الرحيم. السلام عليكم.
so for example, like